Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank our witnesses for being here today. Representative Robbins, when Governor Walz testified before this committee last June, I reminded him that the fraud involving the nonprofit Feeding Our Future established Minnesota as ground zero for the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the nation. Feeding Our Future took $250 million in federal funds out of the mouths of hungry children, which amounts to $1,600 per child living in poverty in Minnesota. According to the FBI, the $250 million in federal taxpayer money was funneled, quote, into luxury homes, cars, and lavish lifestyles while families struggled, end quote. The FBI stated it, quote, will not allow criminals to rob federal programs and walk away unscathed. We'll expose their schemes, dismantle their networks, and ensure they face the full weight of justice, end quote. Last June, Governor Walz assured me that he, quote, wholeheartedly, end quote, supported the federal government's efforts to bring to justice those who stole federal taxpayer money at the expense of hungry children. If he had been true to his word, we would not be sitting here today. However, the committee's back today because the Feeding Our Future scam is just the tip of the iceberg of fraud in Minnesota and perhaps beyond. Representative Robbins, Democrats in your state have tried to dismiss your inquiry into the Feeding Our Future fraud as a partisan political exercise. Is exposing fraud and theft of taxpayer funds a partisan activity?
No, ma'am. As I said in our first committee hearing, it is nonpartisan. Everyone should want to protect taxpayers and vulnerable citizens.
And we completely agree. Representative Robbins, did Governor Walz work with you and your committee wholeheartedly to bring justice to those involved in the Feeding Our Future fraud?
No, ma'am. They have ignored the documents we have provided to them. We did a hearing in February of 2025 on child care fraud that was outlined in the Nick Shirley video, and we gave them a list of 72 child care providers that we were concerned about that got $1 million each or more. And as we saw in the Shirley video last month, they have done nothing about it.
Representative Hudson, for several years we've heard about whistleblowers, highlighted by some of us in Congress who noted instances of fraud in Minnesota. With this in mind, the recent allegations from Nick Shirley regarding staggering amounts of fraud involving child care centers come as no surprise. What kind of climate did Governor Walz create for whistleblowers?
Well, I think he did a really good job of demonstrating for us the kind of climate that he's created yesterday when in an unhinged rant, he tried to throw Deputy U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson under the bus, a guy who's been doing this for, I believe, 16 years. If he's willing to throw a Deputy U.S. Attorney under the bus, what do you think he's going to do to a state agency employee? That's the climate, and everybody who works for the Walz administration knows it.
Thank you. Representative Rarick, do you believe the Walz administration seriously pursued whistleblowers' reports of fraud?
I think that the Walz administration seriously retaliated against whistleblowers and ignored them and dismissed them. And, in my opening statement, I talked about the threats of firing them and blacklisting them and things like that. So that's what the Walz administration focused on.
Representative Rarick, innocent American taxpayers are collateral damage in the Democrats' reckless disregard for taxpayer funds. Hard-working Americans and their communities are left to pay the price. What lessons can other states and federal officials take from your work to expose the stunning amount of fraud and the network of those who enabled it that you all have exposed in Minnesota?
Yeah, the answer to that is very simple, and that is if you just do simple, basic good governance like reconciliation and a few other financial controls, you won't have the problems that you have here. And if you don't retaliate against your employees, your frontline workers that point out fraud, you won't have this problem either.
Representative Hudson, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, absolutely. You have to have a culture of good faith, and that is what is lacking in Minnesota. There is not a culture of good faith. And you see a very strange strategy going on right now with Minnesota Democrats, where every day they're denying this problem, which really strikes me as bizarre because we know there are more prosecutions coming. So what are they going to say as story after story drops, and we can cite time and date where they said it wasn't a problem?
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note that it was the Education and Workforce Committee when I was chair that first brought this issue to the public's attention, and we got nowhere under a Democrat administration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Exactly correct. Thank you, Dr. Foxx. Chair recognizes Ms. Summer Lee from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think like so many people on this committee have already articulated, nobody here believes that rooting out fraud and waste and abuse is not